Hello and welcome everybody to episode 37 of Three Things with JR. I'm JR, and today's episode is going to be a little different. I'm in a very different place than I normally am when I'm recording these episodes, even though I'm all by myself, no special guests, just me here today. I am outside, which means I'm recording this into my microphone on my phone, a special mic, a really nice microphone made by Shure. So not just the phone microphone, but a really nice one with a windscreen and everything. But I'm sitting here on an island in the middle of a lake. Well, really off to the side, not quite out in the middle. Close enough to the edge of the lake that there's a short footbridge to get from the from the mainland out here to the island. And I am on the first island out of 5 islands on 5 Island Lake in beautiful Emmetsburg, Iowa. That's right. It is December 1st. I'm recording this Tuesday, December 1st. In the middle of the worst pandemic ever, in one of the hottest spots in the United States for the pandemic, that's where I am right now. And it's nice that you can't tell there's COVID in the air out here, because it's almost like that with the numbers out here in the Midwest. It's pretty bad, but that's where I am nonetheless. The reason I'm out here is because of my dad, and this is going to be like this is basically thing 1 for today's episode, so we'll just get right into the things. But thing 1 is Dad has the COVID. He's had it now for a few weeks. He got it, let's see, we don't know how, we don't know who, or anything like that. We do know that Dad had started wearing a mask fairly recently, got more diligent about wearing the mask, but somehow still caught the COVID. He was at home with it, feeling just horrible for a few days there, and then it got bad enough to go to the hospital, and he's been on oxygen for a while. He was on a BiPAP machine, which is basically a ventilator that is non-invasive. Like those ventilators you hear about that are so bad that's when they actually stick a tube down your throat for your breathing. This was a non-invasive. Basically, it was a tight mask with forced air, sort of pushes air into your lungs. He was on that for a few days and just hating it and not feeling any better. And on Thanksgiving morning, and my sister and I, Aubrey and me, were debating whether or not we should risk the trip out here into the Midwest to see Dad at home. And then he went into the hospital, and then we were like, well, I guess we're not going because we can't really see him there. There's no visitation in the hospital. And so we figured it was so borderline. Like, I wanted to come out here so bad, but I just couldn't. And it was basically going to have to take a turn for the worse for me to decide to drive out here to Iowa. And then it did. It took a turn. Thanksgiving morning, we got a call from a nurse that was basically letting us know that Dad took himself off the BiPAP machine and he was just sick of it and decided that he would rather go meet Jesus than stay on that machine. And it sounded like the end was near. And so that's all we needed to hear. Aubrey and me got in my car and headed out west. And about halfway out, we got a call from Dad and on his cell phone. And he was there to tell us that he was feeling better. He was off the BiPAP machine and not dying. He was breathing. He needed some oxygen, lots of it, but that he was feeling better, and which gave us a lot of hope, because we were pretty emotional, thinking that we were maybe going to get to Iowa in time to see him one last time, and it turned out not to be the last time, hopefully anyway. We got to Mason City Hospital at 3 a.m. We slept in the parking lot for a little bit, and then they let Aubrey and me into the hospital to go see Dad. They gave us about an hour of time. We had to put gowns on and gloves on and face masks, the really tight-fitting N95 masks that are awful to wear, but really do a good job, and then a face shield. So, we were pretty well protected into the belly of the beast, the COVID unit at Mason City Hospital to see Dad, and he was able to talk and to visit, and man, we were so glad that we got to see him. But that was it. That was the only visitation that we were allowed, and only that was allowed because we kind of thought it might be the end, and if it looked like he wasn't fading out, then they might not have let us come in at all. But because it was looking so bad, they let us come in. And so we're probably not going to get to see him again. We're still out here in Iowa. It's Tuesday. We saw him on Friday, and we've been just staying in his apartment since then. We've disinfected everything. We've cleaned the place up a little bit, and we set up his Christmas decorations, and we've been basically staying away from people for the most part out here, as little contact as possible, doing as much making our own food. If we go to a restaurant, it's just takeout. We are not looking to get or transmit the COVID out here in Iowa, where it seems pretty easily transmittable out here. So we're being extremely careful. And it looks like Dad continues to get better, needing less and less oxygen to keep his blood oxygen level up at an acceptable level. He's breathing better each day, and it looks like he may get to leave the Mason City Hospital's COVID unit soon, go to a rehab facility, and get his strength back, get his lungs back, and hopefully go home. But we're going to go home here in a few days. We're probably leaving Thursday morning, heading back to Virginia so that we can, self-isolate, quarantine, whatever ourselves, and get back to work as soon as possible. So if anybody out there knows my dad, now would be a great time. If you're thinking about him, give him a call. He does have his cell phone on him there in the hospital. He'd love to hear from you. If you don't know my dad, I wish you did, because he's pretty awesome, and it would have really sucked to lose him. He's 71 years old, and he told us he's not ready to go. He wants us to be able to come visit him when he gets old, which is great. So that's thing one, COVID hitting home, pretty close to home, and not in a great way. But the highlight of the trip so far has just been my sister and me haven't spent this much time together in a long time. We've basically been joined at the hip since we drove out here, and it's been really nice hanging out with Aubrey. So yeah, Dad got the COVID. Aubrey and I got to hang out. We get to see some beautiful Emmitsburg, Iowa, and we're heading home in a day or so. So there you go. Thing number one, wear your mask. Oh, by the way, Dad said yes, it's okay to talk about this on the podcast, and make sure to tell everybody to wear your mask. He gets it. He understands just how bad it can be, and there's no reason not to go ahead and just wear your mask to protect yourself and others. So there you go. That's the message from Emmitsburg, Iowa. I don't know. We'll go ahead and do a quick drum solo, and I'll be back in a minute with thing number two. All right, we are back. Thing number two. Before I get to the thing itself, I am sitting here on this island on this lake. Technically, I'm out on a peninsula on this island, and I'm sitting at a picnic table. This is apparently, according to my dad, his favorite spot. He said he comes out here regularly to sit at this picnic table, to look out over at the lake, read a book, meditate, pray, whatever he wants to do out here. He absolutely loves it, and I get it. It's cold right now, but it's also beautiful. all these the geese out here on the lake. You can probably hear them in the background. Thousands of them on a lake that is freezing. The top layer of this lake is looking fairly solid. It looks like if I maybe threw a rock into the lake, it would probably still go through the ice. It's just a thin layer on top, but it is a lake that regularly freezes. And from what I hear, from what Dad's always told me about this lake, they go ice fishing out here in the winter. That's how cold it gets in Emmitsburg, Iowa. And then at some point, I don't know if they still do this, they put a car out in the middle of the lake, and the whole town takes bets. And I think it's a fundraiser type of a thing on what day in the spring the car is going to fall through the ice. I hope they still do that. I kind of doubt that they're still doing that. I don't know how many cars there are at the bottom of Five Island Lake here in Emmitsburg, but it's a fun thing to think about. So that's my view as I'm sitting here talking to you, is looking out over the Five Island Lake from this little island peninsula. Thing number 2, golden oldies. Aubrey and I, as we were driving out here when we started leaving, Aubrey's like, man, just thinking of Dad, let's just listen to some oldies. And it really put us in the mood to think about and reflect on our dad. And to do that, we just threw on the Sirius XM radio, channel 5, 50s on 5, 60s on 6. And, things like the Big Bopper, Chantilly Lace comes on, and Little Deuce Coupe, Yakety Yak, things like that. These are the songs of our childhood with our dad. When we would hop in Dad's van to go out for a weekend at our property out in the country, out in Greene County. Dad bought a piece of land out there and built a house on it, and we would go down there on the weekends from D.C. And it was pretty awesome. Just the ride to and from. It was about a 2-hour drive, and Dad had a mixtape of his favorite oldies songs that he had made from a bunch of records. And boy, the mixtape was kind of the sound of our childhood. It's all, we think about that, we think about Dad, and we think about him growing up here in this small town in the northwest corner of Iowa. And so listen to some golden oldies, folks. Music was different back then. It was a simpler time, and it was pretty awesome. Just loved that. So, golden oldies. Aubrey asked my dad, what did they call oldies before they were old? Because our entire childhood and since, all those songs from the 50s and 60s were always played on radio stations that were played, golden oldies, the oldies station. And so she asked Dad, what were oldies called before they were called oldies? And he said, I think they were just called music, which is, that's pretty good point. We should have thought of that, actually. But we didn't. All right. Thing number 3. If you listened to last week's episode, this thing number 3 will make some sense. It's a follow-up. You're probably wondering how I'm doing. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, where I was hanging together with the band Big, and we were talking about various things, this thing number 3 is a follow-up to thing number 3 from last week, which it's all about my butt. I have developed some hemorrhoids, or a hemorrhoid. I did go to the doctor after the day after. I guess we had band practice a couple Saturdays ago. I went to the doctor that Monday. He confirmed it's just a hemorrhoid, nothing more serious than that, not cancer, not a fistule or whatever, just a plain old-fashioned hemorrhoid or a varicose vein that has popped out. It's gross. He showed me pictures. We got to talking about what to do about it. He prescribed some suppositories, which are annoying because they won't stay in. I'm still figuring that one out. But the good news is they're not bothering me. It has been fine. I don't even really think about it at all. So even with all the sitting and driving in the car, I have not had any kind of major butthole problems, and I'm very thankful for that. I was talking to Dad today on the phone at the hospital there. We were FaceTiming each other. He had just listened to last week's episode, and he asked me how my butt was doing, and told me he's had them plenty of times. Sorry, Dad, if I'm outing you on this, but I think it's just a thing. It's no problem. We can all talk about hemorrhoids, right? It's no big deal. And so Dad's had them, I've got them, and they're mildly annoying. And I hope the suppositories work. So there you go. There's your follow up from last week's thing number 3. And I'm looking forward to getting back home here in a few days to record these things in the comfort and warmth of my house. Looks like I'm going to be stuck there for a little while. When you come back from a place like Iowa right now, where the pandemic is raging. I mean, it's raging everywhere, but it's worse here. It's a pretty hot spot. When you come back from a place like Iowa back home, I can't go back into the office at work probably for a week or two, and probably not going to be able to see my girlfriend or my mother, just to make sure to keep them safe. And so that's going to be annoying. It'll just be living alone at my house for a week or so before I get to actually be around people again. So that'll be a bit of a bummer. Not looking forward to that exactly, but them's the breaks. So this is JR signing off from First Island here on Five Island Lake in Emmitsburg, Iowa. Stay safe, wear your mask, and we'll see you next week.